The crystalline dome stretched endlessly above, reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. Ambassador Jiho Kong stood quietly in the human delegation chamber, watching as representatives from 847 species filled the vast amphitheater. This was the Galactic Council's Centennial Summit, held once every 100 Earth years. It was only the second time humanity had been invited to attend. Jiho adjusted his dark blue uniform and glanced at Captain Hannah Park, who stood beside him with military precision. Her decorated uniform displayed medals from the border wars and the Salvation Campaign. She caught his look and gave a slight nod. Everything was ready. Behind them, Ambassador Tai Yang sat reviewing data on a transparent screen. The elderly diplomat had served Earth for 30 years and had warned them that this summit might be difficult. The council chamber was enormous. Each species had their own platform that floated at different heights, arranged in concentric circles around the central speaking floor. The oldest races occupied the highest positions. The Vrexian Empire sat at the very top, their insectoid forms barely visible in the shadows. They had been spacefaring for 40,000 years. Humanity's platform was near the bottom, just above the newest members who had joined only 20 years ago. A chime rang through the chamber. The session was beginning. The council mediator, a gaseous being that communicated through color shifts, announced the first topic. Expansion rights into the Perseus Arm. Several species wanted to claim new territories there, including Earth. Humanity had submitted a proposal to establish 15 new colonies in unclaimed systems. The debate proceeded normally at first. The Keltheran Collective argued for their claim. The Morpheus Concordat presented survey data. Then the Vrexian ambassador Hyler requested the floor. His massive form clicked and shittered as he descended to the speaking platform. His translator box rendered his words into Galactic Common. Esteemed members of this ancient council, Hyler began, his mandibles clicking with what seemed like amusement. Before we discuss territory distribution, I wish to raise a matter of grave importance, a matter that affects the integrity of this body. Jiho felt a cold sensation in his stomach. This was not on the agenda. I propose that humanity be stripped of all voting rights in this council, Hyler declared. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Furthermore, I propose that their territorial expansion be permanently frozen at current levels. Captain Hana's hand moved slightly toward her sidearm, but Jiho touched her elbow gently. Not yet. Let him speak. Hyler continued, his voice growing louder. Look at them. These primitive savages who learned to split the atom only 400 years ago. They discovered faster-than-light travel by accident, stumbling upon it like children finding a sharp knife. They have been a spacefaring species for less than 2 centuries. 2 centuries. The Vrexian Empire was building Dyson spheres when their ancestors were still living in caves. Some species in the chamber began to laugh. Not all of them, Jiho noted. The Keltheran representative looked uncomfortable. The Andromedans remained silent. But enough were laughing. Enough found this entertaining. They are genetic accidents, Hyler pressed on. Barely evolved primates who got lucky. They have only 47 colonies. Their military is laughable. Their technology is borrowed and copied from their betters. And yet they sit in this chamber, pretending to be equals to civilizations that have existed for tens of thousands of years. The laughter grew louder. Jiho's jaw tightened, but his face remained expressionless. He had been a diplomat for 15 years. He knew how to control his reactions. They cannot even maintain basic telepathic networks. Another voice called out from the upper tiers. They communicate by making noise with their mouths like animals. Their ships are slow and inefficient, added a third voice. They eat biological matter, actual dead organisms. It's revolting. The insults came faster now, one after another. Species that had never spoken to humans before suddenly had opinions to share. the chamber filled with mockery and derision. Jiho stood perfectly still, listening to every word. Behind him, he heard Taiyang's sharp intake of breath. Captain Hana's breathing had become measured and controlled, the way soldiers breathe before combat. Hyler raised his upper appendages, calling for silence. I have said my piece. These humans are unworthy of sitting among civilized species. I call for a vote on my proposal. The council mediator shifted to a questioning orange color. Does any member wish to second this proposal? 3 species immediately signaled their agreement. Then 5 more. Then a dozen. Within moments, 47 species had seconded the motion to strip humanity of its rights. The mediator turned its attention to the human platform. Does the human delegation wish to respond to these charges? Jiho stepped forward. The chamber fell silent, waiting to hear how the primitive humans would defend themselves. Would they beg? Would they argue? Would they present data and charts proving their worth? He walked slowly to the speaking platform. His footsteps echoed in the massive space. He reached the center and looked up at the hundreds of species staring down at him. He saw contempt on some faces, amusement on others, indifference on most. Ambassador Jiho Kong took a breath. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. Humanity withdraws from all treaties, effective immediately. For 3 full seconds, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The chamber was absolutely silent. Then the Vrexian ambassador laughed. What does that mean? You cannot simply withdraw. Jiho did not respond. He turned and walked back to the human platform. Captain Hana was already gathering their materials. Ambassador Taiyang stood, his face grave but resolute. Wait, the council mediator pulsed a confused yellow color. We have not voted yet. You must remain for the proceedings. Jiho paused and looked back at the central platform. No, we must not. You have made your position clear. We are primitive savages, unworthy of this council. Very well. We accept your judgment. And we withdraw. All treaties? Someone called out. You cannot mean all treaties. Every single one, Captain Hana said sharply. Trade agreements, defense pacts, technology exchanges, scientific collaborations, mutual aid accords, medical assistance programs, navigation data sharing, all of it. Consider them terminated. The chamber erupted into chaos. Multiple species began shouting at once. The mediator flashed rapid colors, trying to restore order. Jiho ignored them all. The 3 human delegates left their platform and walked toward the exit. As they passed through the massive doorway, Jiho heard Hyler's voice booming through the translator. Good riddance? Let them run back to their little corner of space. They were never worthy of being here anyway. The door sealed behind them. In the corridor outside, Jiho allowed himself one long exhale. Then he activated his communication implant. Admiral Lee, this is Ambassador Kong. Execute Protocol Exodus. Authorization code, Taiyang 77 Alpha. A brief pause. Then Admiral Dong-Yun Lee's voice came through, crisp and military precise. Confirmed, Ambassador. Beginning immediate withdrawal of all human assets from non-human space. Estimated completion time, 72 hours. Captain Hana looked at Jiho. They will regret this. Yes, Jiho said quietly. They will. But we will not need to make them regret it. Reality will do that for us. Ambassador Taiyang smiled sadly. I have been watching the galactic economy for 30 years. I wonder how long it will take them to realize what they have done. Not long, Jiho replied. Not long at all. They walked to their ship in silence, leaving the council chamber behind them. Above the crystalline dome, the stars watched impassively as humanity began the largest coordinated withdrawal in galactic history. Admiral Dong-Yoon Lee stood in the Seoul Command Center, watching the largest display screen ever constructed on Earth. It showed the entire galaxy, with 12,000 bright points of light scattered across the spiral arms. Each point represented a human vessel currently in non-human space. Trade ships, research vessels, medical frigates, patrol craft, and diplomatic couriers. All of them were about to receive the same order. "Status report," Dong-Yoon said calmly. "All vessels have been notified," replied Commander Yuna Jang from the communication station. "Captains are requesting confirmation. They want to know if this is a drill. Tell them it is not a drill. Protocol Exodus is in effect. Every human ship, every human citizen, every human installation in non-human territory is to return to Earth-controlled space within 72 hours. No exceptions." Yuna hesitated for only a moment before transmitting the confirmation. Across the galaxy, human captains received the message and began immediate withdrawal procedures. In the government tower overlooking Seoul, Premier Sun Woo-han convened an emergency session with the cabinet. Director Nari Choi from the intelligence network was already present, along with the heads of every major Earth department. "They actually did it," Premier Sun Woo said, looking at the reports streaming in from the council chamber. "They publicly humiliated us before the entire galaxy. The question now is how far we go with the response," said Director Nari. She pulled up holographic displays showing the intricate web of human involvement in galactic affairs. "Our analysis suggests complete withdrawal will cause significant disruption, possibly catastrophic disruption." "Good," Premier Sun Woo said flatly. "They wanted to see us as primitive and unimportant. Let us show them why." Looks like without humanity. The first day was quiet. Human traders packed up their goods at alien markets and departed. Some alien merchants were pleased. More room for their own products, they thought. More profit to be made. A few expressed regret at seeing their human friends leave. But business was business. The second day brought minor inconveniences. Shipments that normally arrived on time were delayed. A few space stations noticed their human maintenance crews had left. No matter, they thought. We can handle our own maintenance. By the third day, cracks began to appear. Supply chains that had operated smoothly for decades suddenly failed. Merchant Captain Min-ho Ryu, returning to Earth space with his freighter full of evacuated human workers, listened to the distress calls that flooded the emergency channels. "This is Waystation Keller. We have no food deliveries scheduled. Our supplies will run out in 6 days. Requesting emergency assistance. This is the Morpheus medical ship Gentle Light. Our pharmaceutical supplies have not arrived. We have patients in critical condition. Where are the medicine shipments?" Minho shook his head. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson. Humans had not just been participants in galactic trade. They had been the organizers, the schedulers, the ones who made sure goods got from producers to consumers. Humans were the middlemen for 60% of all galactic commerce. And now that Webb was collapsing. On the 7th day, violence erupted. 3 separate wars broke out in sectors that had been peaceful for generations. The reason was simple. Human peacekeepers were gone. For the past 100 years, humanity had maintained goodwill patrols in disputed territories. Their ships were not numerous enough to fight wars, but they were present enough to prevent them from starting. Now those ships were gone. The Talarian freehold and the Kelmer sovereignty had been arguing over a border for 80 years. Human mediators had kept them talking instead of fighting. With the humans gone, talking stopped. Shooting began within hours. Director Nari watched the reports in her office deep beneath. Saul. She had built the human intelligence network from nothing, and she knew secrets that would terrify the Council if they ever learned them. She pulled up a classified file marked Suppressed Conflicts and transmitted it to Premier Sun Wudot. The file was long. Very long. Humanity had been secretly managing or preventing 47 separate conflicts across the galaxy. Most species did not even know humans were involved. A diplomatic message here, a trade incentive there, a quiet warning to an ambitious warlord. Humanity had been keeping the peace without taking credit for it. The same was true for disaster relief. The file showed 200 worlds that had received human aid in the past decade alone. Earthquakes, solar flares, plague outbreaks, asteroid impacts. Human ships had been there, helping. Always helping. Never asking for recognition or payment. Now those ships were gone. On the 14th day, the Chromoth Consortium discovered that their entire medical supply network had relied on human logistics. The Chromoth were brilliant chemists, capable of creating medicines that could cure almost any disease. But they had no idea how to distribute those medicines across 1,000 worlds. Humans had handled that. Humans had built the refrigerated transport ships, designed the distribution schedules, trained the local staff. With humans gone, medicines spoiled in warehouses. Shipments went to the wrong planets. Critical supplies sat unused while patients died for lack of them. The Council tried to adapt. They assigned other species to take over human roles. But it was not working. The Vrexian Empire tried to manage a trade route that humans had previously handled. Within 3 days, they gave up. The route involved 17 species with different atmospheric requirements, gravitational preferences, and cultural taboos. Humans had memorized all of it. The Vrexians could not make it work. More problems emerged. Communications began to fail across the galaxy. 73% of all faster-than-light communications were routed through relay stations maintained by humans. Those stations were going dark now, either shut down remotely or abandoned as human technicians returned home. Species tried to run the stations themselves, but human computer systems were strange. Humanity used a quantum digital hybrid architecture that nobody else had bothered to learn because primitive human technology was not worth studying. Now they could not figure out how to keep the relay stations operational. The economic impact hit next. Markets crashed across the galaxy. The reason was complex but devastating. Humans had been the only species capable of coordinating multi-species supply chains. Their primitive computers could track millions of variables simultaneously. Their inefficient bureaucracy could communicate with any species. Their laughable logistics network had been the invisible foundation of galactic commerce. Remove that foundation, and everything collapsed. Food shortages spread across 600 worlds. Earth had been the primary agricultural exporter in the galaxy. Humans had mastered farming on every type of planet, from frozen ice worlds to scorching desert spheres. They grew food for species with biochemistries, ranging from silicon-based to photosynthetic. Now those farms were closed to non-human buyers. The Council convened emergency sessions. They tried to solve problems one by one, but there were too many problems, and they were all connected. Fix the food shortage, and you need transport ships. Get transport ships, and you need communications networks. Restore communications, and you need technicians who understand human systems. Everything came back to humans. And humans were gone. In the Seoul Command Center, Fleet Admiral Dong Yoon watched the chaos spread and felt nothing resembling satisfaction. He took no joy in alien suffering, but he understood what Ambassador Jiho had understood in that council chamber. Sometimes the only way to make people appreciate your value is to stop providing it. Director Nari entered the command center with new intelligence. Admiral, we are detecting increased pirate activity in the outer sectors. Raids are up 4,000%. Expected, Dong Yoon replied. Our patrol fleets have withdrawn. We were protecting 230 protectorate worlds under various defense agreements. Those agreements are now void. The Protectorate worlds are begging us to return. Tell them to petition the Galactic Council for assistance. The Council clearly believes we are primitive savages. Surely the advanced civilizations can handle a few pirates. Nari allowed herself a small smile. The advanced civilizations are discovering they cannot. The Vrexian Empire has begun deploying warships to sectors we used to patrol. Their ships are powerful, but slow. By the time they arrive, the pirates are gone. Because pirates do not fight superior forces, Dong-Yun said. They hit fast and run. Our patrol network worked because we had small, fast ships everywhere. Coverage, not firepower. A concept the Empire never understood. 3 weeks after the withdrawal began, the galactic economy was in complete freefall. Banking systems failed. Trade routes collapsed. Communications networks operated at 30% capacity. Food riots broke out on 24 worlds. 4 governments fell to revolution. Entire sectors descended into chaos. And in the crystalline dome of the council chamber, the representatives who had laughed at humanity sat in stunned silence as they received reports of the catastrophe spreading across their territories. Ambassador Hyler of the Vrexian Empire finally understood what he had done. But understanding came too late. Dr. Sora Kim stood in her laboratory beneath the mountains of Switzerland, staring at a containment field that shimmered with impossible colors. The field was holding back something that should not exist in normal space. A dimensional breach. A tear in reality itself that, if released, would expand at the speed of light and consume everything in a sphere 3 light years across. The breach was located in the Vrexian home system. Doctor, her assistant called out, we are receiving multiple priority messages from the Council. They are demanding we maintain the containment protocols. Sora did not look away from the field. Did they demand, or did they ask politely? They demanded. Very rudely, actually. They seem to think they have authority over us. They seem to have forgotten that we are no longer part of their treaties, Sora said quietly. Send them a response. Tell them that maintenance of extraterritorial containment fields is not our responsibility anymore. They have 48 hours before automatic shutdown. Her assistant stared at her. Doctor, that will kill billions. The entire Vrexian home system will be destroyed. Yes, Sora replied. It will. And do you know why there is a dimensional breach in their system? Because 70 years ago, the Vrexian Empire attempted to build a weapon that would make them unstoppable. They tried to weaponize alternate dimensions. They failed, spectacularly. The breach they created should have destroyed them immediately, but we saved them. We did. We built containment fields around their mistake. We have been maintaining those fields for 7 decades, preventing a catastrophe of their own making. We never told anyone. We never asked for payment or recognition. We just solved the problem quietly, because that is what we do. Sora finally turned to look at her assistant. And they called us primitive savages. What will you tell them? I will tell them the truth. That human scientists are the only reason they still exist. And now they will have to beg us to continue protecting them from their own stupidity. Across the galaxy, similar revelations were emerging. Species were discovering just how deeply humans had been woven into the fabric of galactic civilization, not through conquest or dominance, but through 10,000 small acts of competence that nobody had noticed until they stopped. On the Talorian homeworld, atmospheric processors began to fail. The planet had been terraformed 5,000 years ago, and the processors that maintained breathable air had worked perfectly ever since. Now they were shutting down, one by one. Talorian engineers rushed to fix them, but they could not understand the control systems. The systems were written in human mathematical notation. Humans had redesigned the processors 30 years ago when the original Talorian designs began to fail. The Tellurians had accepted the help gratefully, but had never bothered to learn how the new systems actually worked. Why would they? The systems worked perfectly. Until now. Merchant Captain Minho Rue was halfway back to Earth when he received a personal message from a Tellurian merchant he had worked with for years. The message was desperate. "Minho, please. Our air is failing. Our engineers cannot fix the processors. We need human help. I know your government is withdrawn, but I am begging you as a friend. Please." Minho stared at the message for a long time. He wanted to help. Every instinct told him to turn his ship around and go back. But he had his orders. And more importantly, he understood what Ambassador Geo had understood. This was necessary. Painful, but necessary. He sent a response. "I am sorry, my friend. I truly am. But you must contact the Galactic Council for assistance. They are the ones who decided humanity was too primitive to help civilized species. Perhaps they will send someone more advanced than us." The response came back immediately. "The Council is overwhelmed. They cannot help everyone. Please, Minho. People are dying." Minho closed his eyes. Then he forwarded the message to Fleet Command with a note. "This is happening everywhere, isn't it?" The response from Commander Yuno was brief. "Yes, everywhere." In the Keltheron Collective, jump gates began malfunctioning. The gates created stable wormholes for instant travel between star systems. They were ancient technology, built by a precursor race millions of years ago. The Keltherans had maintained them for 10,000 years without problems. But 5 years ago, the gates had started showing gravitational anomalies. Small errors that grew worse over time. The Keltherans had consulted every expert in the galaxy. Nobody could solve it. Then a human physicist named Dr. Junho had quietly corrected the mathematics. He had found an error in calculations that had been considered perfect for millennia. He fixed it without ceremony and moved on to other projects. Now Dr. Junho was back on Earth, and the gates were failing again. Hyperspace lanes were collapsing. Ships that entered wormholes sometimes did not exit where they should. 3 ships had vanished completely, lost in corrupted jump space. The Keltherans finally understood. Human mathematics was not primitive. It was different. Humans thought about physics in ways other species did not. They saw patterns others missed. They solved problems everyone else considered unsolvable. Director Nari compiled all the data in her intelligence headquarters. The full scope of human contributions was staggering. Over the past 150 years, humanity had become essential to galactic civilization in ways nobody had recognized. Humans had solved 12 incurable alien plagues. Human doctors approached medicine differently than other species. They studied diseases at the molecular level with an obsessive attention to detail that other species found tedious. But that obsessive detail had saved billions of lives. Humans had prevented or quietly resolved 47 armed conflicts. Human diplomats had a gift for understanding different perspectives and finding compromises. They could talk to anyone, relate to anyone, find common ground where others saw only differences. Humans had maintained the communications infrastructure that connected the galaxy. Their hybrid computer systems could interface with any alien technology. Other species built systems that worked for their own kind. Humans built systems that worked for everyone. Humans had organized the supply chains that fed 600 worlds. Their logistics networks were masterpieces of coordination that nobody appreciated because they worked invisibly in the background. Most importantly, humans had provided free planetary defense for 230 protectorate worlds. Small, undeveloped worlds that could not defend themselves. The great powers of the galaxy ignored them. Humans protected them. For free. Just because it was the right thing to do. Now all that was gone. Director, Nari sent her report to Premier Sun Wu and Admiral Dong Yun. The conclusion was simple. Galactic civilization, as it currently existed, could not function without humanity. Within 3 months, hundreds of billions would die. Within 6 months, governance would collapse. Within a year, the galaxy would descend into a dark age that might last for centuries. Do we have any moral obligation to stop this? Premier Sun Wu asked during a secure video conference with his advisors. No, replied Ambassador Tai Yang, who had returned to Earth. We offered our friendship and cooperation freely. They rejected it with contempt. We are not responsible for the consequences of their own choices. But billions of innocents will suffer, Admiral Dong Yun pointed out. Not everyone in the council chamber laughed at us. True, Tai Yang acknowledged. The Andromedans remained silent. The Keltheron representative looked uncomfortable. A few others showed decency, but they did not speak up. They allowed the insults to continue. Silence in the face of injustice is its own form of guilt. Dr. Sora Kim joined the conference remotely from her laboratory. I have a question for the council. Do they want our help? They are beginning to ask for it, Director Nari confirmed. Quietly at first. Individual species sending backdoor communications to human contacts. Some offering payment. Some offering apologies. But the council itself has not made any formal request. Then we wait, Sora said. We are not monsters. We will help when they ask properly. But they must ask. They must acknowledge what they have done and what we have provided. The conference agreed. Humanity would wait. Meanwhile, the crisis deepened. The Vrexian Empire's dimensional containment field continued counting down to failure. 48 hours. Then 40. Then 36. Ambassador Hyler sent increasingly desperate messages to Earth, demanding that humans restore the field immediately. Ambassador Jiho read each message and deleted it without responding. Demands were not requests. Demands were not apologies. At the 30-hour mark, Hyler's tone changed. Please, his message said. I understand I was wrong. I was arrogant and cruel. I ask for mercy. Not for myself, but for the billions of Vrexians who will die if the containment fails. Jiho read the message 3 times. Then he sent a response. You called us primitive. Primitive species do not build things they cannot understand. You called us savages. Savages do not save their enemies from destruction. Good luck, Ambassador Hyler. I hope your advanced civilization can solve this problem without our help. The message was cold, brutal even, but Jiho felt no satisfaction in sending it. He felt tired, so very tired of being underestimated, insulted, and dismissed. Humanity had tried to be good neighbors. They had helped everyone who asked, and many who did not ask. They had built bridges, solved problems, and saved lives. And they had been mocked for it. Now the galaxy was learning what the universe looked like without humanity's quiet competence holding everything together. The lesson was harsh, but necessary. Premier Sun Wu issued a statement to all of Earth. We are receiving many requests for assistance. Some are genuine appeals for help. Others are demands disguised as requests. We will respond to none of them until the Galactic Council formally acknowledges what has happened and takes responsibility for it. We are not holding the galaxy hostage. We are simply allowing reality to teach a lesson that words could not. Across Earth and its 47 colonies, humanity watched and waited. Some felt guilty. Many felt vindicated. All of them understood that nothing would ever be the same again. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session for the 5th time in 2 weeks. The crystalline dome that had witnessed humanity's humiliation now housed a very different gathering. Where there had been laughter and contempt, there was now fear. Ambassador Hyler of the Vrexian Empire stood at the central speaking platform. But he did not speak with the arrogant confidence he had displayed before. His mandibles clipped nervously as he addressed the assembly. The dimensional containment will fail in 18 hours. My government has tried everything. We have consulted every scientist in the Empire. We have offered unlimited resources to anyone who can help. Nobody can solve this problem. Only the humans know how to maintain the field, and they refuse to answer our communications. The Tellurian representative spoke next, her voice synthesizer crackling with distress. Our atmospheric processors are failing across the planet. We have evacuated the capital city. 4 million of my people are dying from oxygen deprivation. Human engineers built those systems. Only humans can repair them. One by one, species reported catastrophes. The Morpheus Concordat had lost contact with 70% of their colonies because communications relays were offline. The Keltheron Collective reported that 3 more ships had vanished incorrupted. Jump Space. The Chromath Consortium confirmed that plague had broken out on 5 worlds. They could not receive medical supplies. The Council mediator pulsed a deep red color, signaling maximum urgency. We must contact Earth. We must negotiate their return. We have tried, said the Andromedan delegate, speaking publicly for the first time. Her crystalline form chimed softly as she moved. I personally sent a message to Ambassador Jiho Kong, a formal apology and a request for dialogue. He deleted it without reading it. How do you know he deleted it without reading it? Someone asked. Because he sent me a response that said, message deleted without reading. Send future communications through proper council channels. There are no proper council channels. Humans have closed their embassies. Ambassador Hyler's frustration boiled over. This is absurd. They cannot simply abandon the galaxy. They have moral obligations. They built systems, made commitments, accepted responsibilities. They cannot walk away from all of that. The Andromedan delegate turned to face him. Can they not? Did you not argue that they were too primitive to hold responsibilities? Did you not propose stripping them of all rights and freezing their expansion? You told them they were unworthy of sitting among us. They agreed with you and left. That was before we understood the situation. Understood what situation? That you need them? That the galaxy depends on them? These facts were always true. You simply did not know it because humans did their work quietly without demanding recognition. The Andromedan's voice grew sharp. Tell me, Ambassador Hyler, when was the last time you thanked a human for anything? Hyler had no answer. The council debated for hours, but debate solved nothing. They needed humanity to return, but humanity would not answer their calls. Finally, 3 council races volunteered to send official apology. Delegations to Earth. Their ships departed within hours. All 3 were turned away at the boundary of human space. Keltheron diplomatic vessel was met by a human patrol ship. Captain Hannah Park herself commanded the patrol. Her message was brief. Human space is closed to non-human vessels. Turn back immediately. We carry a formal apology from the Keltheron Collective. The Keltheron captain protested. We must speak with your government. Your apology is noted, Hannah replied. Now turn back, or you will be fired upon. The Keltheron ship retreated. The other 2 delegations received identical responses. Reports of the rejections reached the council within hours. Panic spread through the chamber. If humans would not even accept apologies, what would they accept? Ambassador Hyler made one final attempt. He broadcast a message on every frequency that humans monitored, a public plea that anyone in the galaxy could intercept. People of Earth, I am Ambassador Hyler of the Vrexian Empire. I come before you with humility and shame. I was wrong. Everything I said about your species was wrong. You are not primitive. You are not savages. You are not unworthy. The truth is that my people exist only because of your mercy and competence. The dimensional breach that threatens my homeworld would have destroyed us 70 years ago if not for human scientists who solved the problem we created through our own arrogance. I insulted you while standing on the foundation you built. I mocked you while you protected us. I called you animals while you saved us. I beg your forgiveness, not for my sake, but for the billions of Phyrexians who will die because of my stupidity. Please. The message was broadcast across the galaxy. Species watched and waited for humanity's response, that it came from Ambassador Jiho Kong, transmitted from Earth on the same open frequency. Ambassador Hyler, I received your message. I appreciate your honesty. However, you are not addressing the correct authority. Humanity does not respond to individual appeals from individual ambassadors. We are not, as you once claimed, primitive savages who can be swayed by emotional pleas. We are a civilization with proper procedures and protocols. If the Galactic Council wishes to negotiate with Earth, the Council as a whole must issue a formal request through official channels. When the Council does so, we will consider responding. The transmission ended. The message was clear. Humanity would not be moved by individual apologies or personal pleas. The entire Council had participated in the insult. The entire Council must participate in the apology. In his private chambers, Premier Sun Wuhan reviewed reports from Director Nari about the galaxy's deteriorating condition. The numbers were grim. Conservative estimates suggested that within 2 months, the death toll would reach 100 billion. Entire civilizations were on the brink of collapse. Are we really going to let this happen? Asked Admiral Dong Yun during a secure meeting with Earth's leadership. No, Premier Sun Wu replied. But we are going to make them ask properly. The galaxy has operated on the assumption that ancient civilizations are superior to younger ones. That age equals wisdom. That longevity equals competence. This assumption has led to a council structure where species like the Phyrexians dominate simply because they are old, regardless of whether they actually contribute anything of value. You want to change the entire structure of galactic governance. Director Nari observed. I want to create a galaxy where contribution matters more than age, where competence is valued over heritage, where a species that solves problems is respected more than a species that merely survived for a long time. Premier Sunwoo pulled up a document he had been drafting. I want a new order, and this crisis is our opportunity to build it. The document was a complete restructuring of the Galactic Council. Voting power based on contribution rather than seniority. Mandatory transparency for all defense and aid programs. Proportional responsibility, meaning species that benefited from shared infrastructure had to help maintain it. And most importantly, criminal penalties for ambassadors who abused their positions to humiliate or oppress other species. This is ambitious, Ambassador Tai Yang said, reading through the proposal. The Council will never agree to this. They will, Premier Sunwoo replied, because we are about to show them they have no choice. Admiral Dong Yun stood and walked to the window overlooking Seoul. You want to reveal the fleet. I do. For the past 50 years, humanity had been building warships in secret. Not many people knew this. The public fleet, the one that alien military analysts tracked and evaluated, consisted of about 500 vessels. Respectable for a young species, but nothing impressive. The real fleet was much larger. How many ships do we have now? Premier Sunwoo asked. 10,417, Admiral Dongyun replied, all equipped with weapon systems that no other species knows we possess. We have been testing them in the deep void between galaxies where nobody watches. And they are ready for deployment? They are. Give the order, and I can position a battle group at every major council homeworld within 3 days. Premier Sunwoo considered this. Not yet. First, let them come to us. Let them ask. When they do, we will give them a demonstration of what primitive savages can build when properly motivated. The waiting continued. 48 hours passed. The Vrexian dimensional containment field had 12 hours remaining before automatic shutdown. Tellurian evacuation efforts had saved some civilians, but millions were still dying. The Keltheron jump gates had caused 6 more ship disappearances. Plague deaths in Chromith territory had exceeded 10 million, and still the Galactic Council hesitated. Pride warred with necessity. Ancient civilizations struggled with the humiliation of admitting they needed help from a species they had mocked. Finally, the Council mediator issued a formal statement. The Galactic Council formally requests negotiations with the government of Earth regarding the current crisis and humanity's potential return to treaty obligations. We acknowledge that errors were made in the previous session and express regret for any offense caused. The statement was broadcast across the galaxy. It was weak, careful, and avoided accepting actual responsibility. It was the minimum possible apology that could technically qualify as an apology. Ambassador Jiho read the statement and smiled coldly. Not good enough. He sent a response. The Galactic Council's request is noted. However, Earth requires a more substantial acknowledgement before negotiations can begin. Specifically, we require the Council to publicly state what errors were made, who made them, and what the actual facts are regarding humanity's role in galactic civilization. Vague expressions of regret are insufficient. The response caused consternation in the Council chamber. They had apologized. What more did humans want? What humans wanted was truth. The whole truth. Spoken publicly. Acknowledged officially. No more quiet competence. No more invisible contributions. If humanity was going to save the galaxy was going to admit that humanity was saving it. The clock continued counting down on the Vrexian containment field. 8 hours. 6 hours. 4 hours dotted the 2-hour mark. The Council finally broke. They issued a new statement, this one written by the Andromedan delegate who had remained silent during the original insults. The statement was comprehensive, honest, and humiliating for many Council members. It detailed humanity's contributions over the past 150 years. It listed every crisis humans had resolved, every service they had provided, every silent contribution they had made. It specifically named Ambassador Hyler and 46 other Council members who had participated in the mockery. It acknowledged that these individuals had made grave errors in judgment and would be removed from their positions. Most importantly, it stated a simple truth. The Galactic Council exists today only because of human effort. Without humanity, galactic civilization would collapse. We were wrong. We are sorry. We need your help. Ambassador Jiho read the statement twice. Then he transmitted a response. Acknowledged. Earth is willing to negotiate. Stand by for our terms. The Emergency Council session had the highest attendance in recorded history. 847 species sent representatives. Even the reclusive void dwellers emerged from their isolated systems to participate. Everyone understood that this session would determine the future of galactic civilization. Ambassador Jiho Kang returned to the crystalline dome for the first time since walking out. He did not come alone. Captain Hana Park stood beside him in full military dress. Ambassador Tai Yang accompanied them, along with Director Nari Choi and Admiral Dong-Yun Lee. The human delegation was larger and more formally organized than before. The Council mediator pulsed a respectful blue, a color reserved for honored guests. The Council recognizes Ambassador Kang of Earth. Jiho walked to the central speaking platform, the same platform where Hyler had mocked humanity weeks ago. The chamber was silent. Nobody laughed now. Many could not meet his eyes. "Members of the Galactic Council," Geo began, his voice calm and measured. "You have asked humanity to return. You have acknowledged your errors and expressed your need for our assistance. We appreciate your honesty. However, Earth does not wish to simply resume the previous arrangement. The previous arrangement was fundamentally broken." He activated a holographic display that filled the chamber. It showed the web of human contributions across the galaxy. Trade routes, defense networks, medical programs, infrastructure maintenance, communication systems, all of it mapped in glowing lines that connected thousands of worlds. For 150 years, humanity worked to build galactic civilization. We asked for nothing in return except basic respect and the opportunity to participate as equals. We did not receive even that. Instead, we were mocked, insulted, and dismissed as primitive savages unworthy of your company. Jiho's voice remained level, but everyone could hear the steel beneath the calm. You judged us by our age rather than our contributions. You valued heritage over competence. And you learned painfully what happens when you mistake longevity for superiority. The Andromedan delegate chimed softly. "We have learned our lesson, Ambassador Kang. What would Earth have us do?" "Restructure everything," Jiho replied. He transmitted a document to every delegation simultaneously. "These are Earth's terms for rejoining galactic society. They are not negotiable." The terms were comprehensive. The document ran to 300 pages of detailed proposals, but the core principles were simple. First, the Galactic Council would be reorganized. Voting power would no longer be based on how long a species had been spacefaring. Instead, votes would be weighted by contribution. Species that provided more services, solved more problems, and supported more worlds would have more influence. Age would grant no special privileges. Second, all aid and infrastructure programs would be transparent. No more quiet contributions that went unnoticed. If a species built a communications relay, everyone would know. If a species provided planetary defense, it would be publicly acknowledged. Silent competence was noble, but it allowed incompetent species to take credit they did not earn. Third, proportional responsibility. Any species that benefited from shared infrastructure had to contribute to maintaining it. The days of freeloading on human logistics networks were over. If you used the communications relays, you helped pay for them. If your ships used the jump gates, you helped maintain them. Everyone contributed according to what they received. Fourth, diplomatic accountability. Ambassadors who abused their positions to humiliate or oppress other species would face formal sanctions, including removal from office and criminal prosecution. The Council would establish an ethics board to investigate complaints and enforce standards of conduct. Fifth, mandatory defense cooperation. Species could no longer ignore pirate raids and border conflicts while relying on human peacekeepers to handle everything. Every council member would contribute ships, personnel, or resources to collective security. Burden sharing would be proportional to each species' population and economic output. Sixth, and most controversially, humanity demanded reparations. Not monetary payment, but acknowledgement. Every species that had benefited from human assistance in the past 150 years would issue a public statement thanking Earth and detailing what humans had done for them. The galaxy would know, once and for all, what humanity had contributed. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some species immediately accepted the terms. The Andromedans supported every provision. The Keltherans agreed enthusiastically. Smaller species that had been protected by human patrols expressed gratitude and relief, but the ancient powers resisted. The Vrexian Empire, the Morpheus Concordat, and several other old civilizations objected to the new voting structure. They had ruled the council for thousands of years, based on their age and history. They did not want to give up that power. Ambassador Hyler spoke, his voice subdued but still stubborn. These terms would strip the Vrexian Empire of most of our council authority. We have been members for 12,000 years. We have earned our position. You have earned nothing, Captain Hannah Park said sharply, stepping forward. You survived for 12,000 years. Congratulations, but survival is not achievement. You created a dimensional weapon that nearly destroyed your own homeworld. Humans saved you from your own stupidity. You deserve no special authority for being old and incompetent. Hyler's mandibles clicked in agitation, but he did not argue. He could not. Everyone knew she was right. The debate continued for hours. Premier Sun Wuhan, watching from Earth via live transmission, decided it was time to reinforce the message. He sent a signal to Admiral Dong Yun. Admiral, deploy the fleet. Let them see what primitive savages can build. Across the galaxy, 10,000 human warships emerged from stealth. They had been positioned in deep space, invisible to sensors, waiting for this moment. Now they activated their drives and moved into formation around major Council homeworlds. The aliens detected them immediately. Sensors that had shown 500 human ships now showed 10,000. Massive battleships that dwarfed anything in the known galaxy. Carriers that launched fighter wings numbering in the thousands. Weapons platforms equipped with technology that alien analysts could not identify. In the council chamber. Display screens updated with military tracking data. Species representatives watched in stunned silence as the true extent of human military power became visible. You were building this the entire time, the Morpheus delegate whispered. While we mocked your weakness, you were building an armada. We were preparing for the day when we might need to stand alone, Admiral Dong Yun replied. Today is not that day. We do not wish to stand alone. We wish to stand as equals. But make no mistake, we are capable of standing alone if we must. The demonstration had the intended effect. Resistance to Earth's terms evaporated. Even the most stubborn ancient species understood the new reality. Humanity was not asking for permission to restructure the Council. Humanity was informing the Council that restructuring would happen, with or without their cooperation. The vote was called. The motion to accept Earth's terms and implement complete Council restructuring passed with 89% support. Only a handful of species abstained. None voted against it. Ambassador Jiho watched the vote tally with satisfaction. The motion passes. Implementation will begin immediately. All previous treaties are void. New treaties will be negotiated under the new framework within 6 months. Until then, humanity will provide emergency assistance to prevent further loss of life. But this assistance comes with expectations of reciprocity. He paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled species. Let me be clear about something. We are not doing this out of revenge. We are not trying to dominate the galaxy or establish human supremacy. We want exactly what we wanted from the beginning. Fair treatment, equal respect, recognition for our contributions, and a galactic civilization that values competence over age, cooperation over exploitation, and mutual support over selfish freeloading. The Council mediator pulsed an acknowledging green. Earth's position is understood and accepted. What is your first action under the new framework? Dr. Sora Kim will restore the Vrexian Dimensional Containment Field, Geo announced. The field will remain active indefinitely, but the Vrexian Empire will fund its operation and publicly acknowledge that their existence depends on human technology maintaining a problem they created. Ambassador Hyler stood slowly. His mandibles trembled. We accept these terms. And we thank you? Sincerely and without reservation. You saved us when we deserved nothing but contempt. You are better than we are, and we acknowledge it. It was the first genuine statement Hyler had made since the crisis began. Jiho nodded in acknowledgement. Human medical ships will resume supply runs to Chromath territory. Human technicians will repair the Tellurian atmospheric processors. Human engineers will stabilize the Keltheron jump gates. Human patrol fleets will return to the outer sectors to suppress piracy. Jiho transmitted a comprehensive deployment plan. Within 1 week, normal operations will resume. Within 1 month, the crisis will be resolved. Within 6 months, the new council structure will be fully operational. And the 47 ambassadors who participated in the original insults? The Andromedan delegate asked. They are removed from their positions immediately, Jiho said firmly. They may petition for reinstatement after 1 year, but only if they complete a comprehensive cultural sensitivity program and demonstrate genuine understanding of why their behavior was unacceptable. There was no debate, no objection. The named ambassadors would be replaced. The session concluded with a formal ceremony. Every species representative stood and issued a public statement of gratitude to humanity. Some statements were brief and perfunctory. Others were lengthy and emotional. The Keltheron delegate wept openly while describing how human engineers had saved their colony from a solar flare 30 years ago, an event the Keltherans had barely acknowledged at the time. It took 6 hours for all 847 species to speak. Ambassador Jiho listened to every statement, acknowledging each one with a respectful nod. When it was finally over, he transmitted one last message to the council. We came to you in friendship 150 years ago. We offered cooperation and partnership. We built your infrastructure, solved your problems, and saved your people. We asked only for basic respect in return. You refused. You mocked us. You called us primitive and unworthy. And then you learned, painfully, that the galaxy could not function without us. His voice softened slightly. But we have not changed. We are still the same species that came to you in friendship. We still want cooperation and partnership. We still want to build, to solve, and to help. The difference now is that you understand our value. You recognize our contributions. You see us as equals. That is all we ever wanted. He paused. We will return to the galaxy now. We will rebuild what collapsed and repair what broke. But remember this lesson. Remember what happened when you judged a species by their age rather than their character. Remember what happens when you mistake quiet competence for weakness. And remember that the strongest response to an insult is not violence or revenge, but simply walking away and letting reality teach the lesson words could not. Ambassador Jiho Kong stepped down from the speaking platform and walked back to the human delegation area. Captain Hana Park smiled at him. Ambassador Tai Yang placed a hand on his shoulder. Director Nari transmitted a message to Earth. Mission accomplished. Across the galaxy, human ships began moving. Medical frigates jumped to plague zones. Engineering vessels headed toward failing infrastructure. Patrol craft took up positions in pirate-infested sectors. The great machinery of human competence, silent and invisible for so long, became active and acknowledged. On the Vrexian homeworld, Dr. Sora Kim remotely reactivated the dimensional containment field. The countdown to disaster stopped with 4 minutes remaining. Billions of Vrexians who had been preparing for death instead celebrated survival. In the streets of the capital city, screens displayed a message from Dr. Sora. Containment restored. Please be more careful with dimensional physics in the future. Respectfully, Dr. Sora Kim, Earth. Merchant Captain Minho Ru received clearance to resume trade operations in non-human space. His Tellurian friend sent a message. Thank you for coming back. I am sorry for what happened. Will you forgive us? Minho smiled as he composed his response. Of course I forgive you. That is what friends do. But in the future, when I tell you that my people are essential to galactic civilization, perhaps you will believe me." The response came back immediately. "I will. We all will." Humanity proved it beyond any doubt. In the Seoul Command Center, Admiral Dong-Yoon Lee watched his fleet disperse to their new assignments. 10,000 ships, no longer hidden, no longer secret. The galaxy knew humanity's true strength now. But more importantly, they knew humanity's true character. Strong enough to walk away, confident enough to demand respect, generous enough to return and help despite being insulted. Premier Sun Woo-han addressed the people of Earth and its colonies. Today begins a new era. An era where humanity stands as equals among the stars. We did not achieve this through conquest or domination. We achieved it by doing what we have always done: building, solving, helping, and contributing. And when we were insulted for it, we demonstrated our value by withdrawing it. The galaxy learned what we have always known: that civilization is built by those who work, not those who simply existed for a long time. On Earth and across 47 colonies, humans celebrated, not with arrogance or smugness, but with quiet satisfaction. They had been tested and found strong. They had been insulted and responded with dignity. They had been needed and recognized for it. In the Galactic Council Chamber, Ambassador Ji-ho Kong prepared to return to Earth. The Andromedan delegate approached him privately. "You handled this perfectly," she said, her crystalline form chiming with approval. "You taught the galaxy a lesson it desperately needed to learn." "I hope the lesson holds," Ji-ho replied. "Pride has a short memory." "Perhaps, but the new council structure will help. When votes depend on contribution rather than age, species will think twice before insulting their most valuable partners." Ji-ho nodded. That was the goal. Not dominance, but fairness. Not supremacy, but equality. We build a better galaxy together, or we don't build it at all. He looked around the chamber one last time, remembering the day he had walked out. The laughter, the contempt, the casual cruelty of species who thought themselves superior. They were not laughing now. They were grateful, respectful, perhaps even humbled. It was enough. It was more than enough. Ambassador Ji-ho Kong, representative of a species that had been called primitive savages, left the chamber with his head held high. Behind him, the galaxy began rebuilding. And this time, everyone knew who was doing the work.